Welcome to the REI Diamond Interview, your source for real estate investment jewels of wisdom with Dan Breslin.
Welcome to the REI Diamonds, episode number 33 with Tom Olson on turnkey rentals, large-scale construction, and high-volume wholesaling of houses in the Midwest. I'm Dan Breslin, and on the REI Diamonds podcast, I invite world-class guests to share their valuable experience as it relates to real estate investing. You're about to hear real-world insights, experience, and advice from people who are actually making money doing the business of real estate. This is not guru land. This is, the real deal in the streets, experiences that my guests are doing in their businesses today to make money. So Tom Olson is our guest today. Welcome to the show, Tom.
How you doing, Dan? How you like this weather we got going on today?
I haven't been outside yet. I actually work from home, and then I head out in the afternoon for all my appointments.
Oh, it's a little nasty, Chicago.
Yeah, a little chilly. Yeah. This is an interesting show. Usually I don't get, too many people who are located within driving distance of where I am now that I'm living here in Chicago, so it's pretty cool to get you on the show. So, Tom, why don't you first start by talking a little bit about, the size and scope of your business today and maybe the origination, kind of how you got to where you're at, the progression of your career as a real estate investor from the very beginning.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I actually started in construction myself. I started working for my 8th grade history teacher. Started working in construction then, and then in 9th grade at the age of 14, I either made the mistake or it was a blessing that I found the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think a lot of us have had certain books or certain people in the past that we've come across, and we read a book or we decided to, follow a guru or follow something that we decided, hey, we're going to get into a certain type of business or whatever. So I read that book, and ever since then, I just said I want to be in real estate. I was one of these weird kids in high school that actually read finance books and read books on real estate, and I think Carlton Sheets and some of those other stuff back then that, type of books that I think now, knowing what I know now, a lot of it's just fluff and a lot of it's just, trying to get anybody and anything to pay for a course. But at the same time, there's some really good information in those books that you can really learn from. And for me, it kind of just made me believe that I could do this. And so that's kind of where I started. I started in construction, like I said. I went to college for a couple of years for business management, didn't graduate college. But I really always wanted to be in real estate. So from there, I worked in construction and for till I was about 30 years old. Had my own business all the way basically since I was 21 years old. I started a side business then in construction and always was doing side work. I bought my first rental actually before I got married when I was 19 years old. So I got in this business really young. I've been through it a little bit, and I love real estate. So working there, I worked in construction for a while. Next, after that, I actually got involved with some fix and flippers and some guys that were buying and selling houses. And I did one project for them. And then after that one project, they wanted me to manage all of their projects. So I kind of went from there to a project manager. And then from there, this guy that I was working for, he decided to leave town. So he leaves town, and I had already been working with all these investors. I basically just took over for this guy. So with this, and I didn't realize that this was a lot of value at the time, but I do now. But what I was doing is I was helping the guys find houses, and then I was fixing them up for them. And then either I was helping them get them rented or getting them property managed, or I was helping them find a realtor and get them sold. So I was kind of doing the whole thing for them, kind of a turnkey type of situation for buy, fix, and flip, and also for, buy and rent. So, but all I was getting out of the deal the whole time was just the construction. That's what my that's what my nugget was out of it. I was basically being the real estate investor, not realizing, all the value I was bringing to these people. But at the same time, I have to, give God the credit for this, is that he was teaching me, how to do this business. So I kind of got to teach myself to do this business while, getting paid a little bit. You don't make really any money in construction. compared to what the investor makes. But so it kind of led me that way. So I did that. I owned a couple rentals during that time, nothing huge, but really was a part of about 100 fix and flips and probably about 100 buy, fix, and holds for other investors as well during that time period. And then about 4 years ago, me and my partner hooked up, and I had actually done some construction for him at one point, but we have hooked up then, and then I think the first year we did about 120 houses, wholesale, mainly just wholesale doing, and then from there we've kind of just grown into the company that we are now. Now we're doing about 250 wholesale deals a year. Last year we bought, fixed up, rented, and sold about 40 deals, and we added 50-something rentals to our portfolio, and we fixed and flipped, I think, about 10 or 12 houses along the way. So that's a little bit about, my progression on where I started and where I'm at now.
What an interesting path and what an interesting result. You don't usually hear that. I mean, my story, my background was paying the money for the seminars and attending a few of those and then kind of stumbling along and certainly starting out in the business wholesaling, getting paid from that first as opposed to, the way you had almost an apprenticeship, Tom. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I really did. And like I said, I kind of believe that God had his hand in there and he kind of led me all the way through, sometimes I didn't realize what I was, but I wouldn't have the knowledge I have today if it wasn't for that.
So this is cool. Right before we got on this call here, we were talking about a mutual acquaintance of ours, Josh Hertz, who was also on this show a few months back. I'll make sure I put his episode in the show notes. And I actually remember I was talking with Josh. We were both in the Philadelphia market at the time, and he mentioned, this guy out in Indiana, and he's doing this collective genius thing, and he's wholesaling I forget the numbers he threw around at the time, and it was mind-boggling numbers of wholesale deals, and then he confirmed it. It's so funny how, God works and puts people into our lives at particular times. How I had heard literally about you, Tom, and then just discovered that it was you who was kind of giving us this advice and some different things with wholesale deals and kind of introducing us to a whole new structure compared to how Josh and I were both sort of operating in the Philadelphia market. And would you mind kind of getting into that a little bit, sort of the structure of your operation and how you can manage to do 250 wholesale deals in a year? I mean, obviously this is not, Tom Olson running out to every house, put the contract on. You must have a team in place and some systems there.
No, absolutely. No, I mean, systems are key to any business. I don't care if you're a doctor or a dentist or you own a construction business or if you buy and sell houses or if you buy and rent houses or if you are a landlord or if you build anything. I don't care if you make widgets. I don't care if systems are everything. The way I think of systems is kind of I go back to a farmer. One person can go out and they can plant seeds themselves and they can get to, they kind of hit a limit. Or what they can do is they can hire a bunch of people, and the people can go out and the people can plant all these seeds. But you're still limited in how much money you have to be able to pay for people to plant seeds. Or you could buy a combine. Now, a combine's expensive and takes a lot of effort to get to that point. But these big machines, to me, are like the systems that you got to kind of create. And all these little processes that you don't realize are a process, but they should be a process, are very important to a business and to be able to make them happen. So yes, our company is in Highland, Indiana. We have about 26 people that work for us full time. We have 4 or 5 VAs that work for us as well full time, and we've got sales teams that go all around the whole states of Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, and Ohio that look at houses, that take phone calls, that sell. That we have a finance team, an operations team, an acquisitions team. We have 9 people that's their full-time job is just to acquire houses. Anytime you want to come and buy and see us, Dan, just feel free. Let me know. You can stop by our office. We've got about 5,500 square foot. We have a training facility too, if you're interested in anything like that over here in Highland.
Absolutely, Tom. So let me break it down. What are the 3 number one sources of the wholesale inventory in your business in order of volume?
Sure. I would probably say online auctions are definitely huge. We buy a lot from auction.com and Hubzu and HUD. There's more out there, but that's probably honestly our number one source of deals, which is really opposite, I know, from most wholesalers that call themselves wholesalers. But we literally get most of our, I'd say 70% of our houses that we wholesale are bank-owned properties. And so we put in over 5,000 offers a week, and we get somewhere between 10 and 15 offers accepted every week. So, and like I said, that's 9 full-time people working on that, 3 of which are VAs. So that's, I mean, we do have an acquisition beast here, and we really could grow that even more if we decided to go deeper, which we're planning on going more deep this year. Does that answer your question?
That's mind-boggling. So where do the other 30% come from? Bandit signs and letters and things of that nature?
we definitely do some marketing. Honestly, I buy a lot of houses from wholesalers. I mean, I've bought some houses from people that have been with you, worked with Aaron a little bit, and worked with some other people on some deals. But I mean, I do believe in networking with people, and sometimes other people can get deals and they can't sell it, but maybe you can. I buy and sell with wholesalers. It's kind of funny. So I do use other wholesalers. I don't consider them competition. I actually consider them, just part of my team almost. Both, like I said, to help buy and sell. But like I said, we do a lot of bandit signs. We probably put up 200 to 300 bandit signs a week between all of our areas. So we're spending some money there. I know we spent about $100,000 in mailings last year. I'm not super keen on mailings. I'll say that from in the Midwest. I think that some of the higher end areas might work out really well, and I think some of certain areas in certain parts of the country work really well. The mailings work really well. I just haven't seen it for me in the Midwest. So and then the other sources would be direct with banks. We have some relationships with some banks and some hedge funds, and then tax sales as well. We haven't gotten into tax sales as much as maybe we should, but that's definitely another source of properties, share of sales and such.
Yeah, with a lot of different strategies, I know there's some challenges. I'll give you an example, Tom, and then I'm going to ask a question kind of along the same lines. So in Philadelphia, the tax sale is an issue. You go in, you pay, the money, you buy the property, you get the deed, but then you can't issue title insurance for 12 months until after, whatever expiration periods are allowed for them to, challenge the sale. So that pretty much makes it impossible, at least for me, ethically, to wholesale those properties because you're selling somebody into a situation. So do you have any examples of things like that, little hidden booby traps that maybe pop up in the online auction world? You must be a master of that strategy. And, auction.com, Hubzu, I mean, what are some of the challenges that you would face going in there and wholesaling or buying properties from that source?
Well, honestly, there's always booby traps. There's always going to be things out there. If people get in this business thinking it's an easy thing, I would say get out of it. Go do something else. This is not for the faint of heart. This is not for the people that think this is easy, quick, get rich quick. It's really not. It's not passive. This is completely active. And honestly, if you look at all the exit strategies of a real estate deal, in my opinion, wholesaling is the most active. It's the ultra active. It's the one that takes the most guts and the most grit. And wholesaling is probably, in my opinion, the hardest one to make money at. And I think, we've become really good at it. You have to think of wholesaling a house as like day trading houses. So everything has to line up. Everything has to line up in the whole process. So as far as some things to look out for, I guess, when you're buying from the bank, you got to have the money, number one. When you're buying from a homeowner, you may not necessarily have to have that money in the bank when you're making that offer, because most homeowners aren't going to ask you for proof of funds. Well, a bank is going to. When you're wholesaling, a lot of times we close on the houses and then just resell them. So again, you have to either have money, cash lined up, or you got to have lenders lined up to be able to make that happen. Sometimes when you're dealing, but even any kind of deal this is, even if it's even if it's an owner-occupant or, a direct-to-seller or a bank, sometimes there's going to be title issues that you're going to come up with. We always get a warranty deed when we buy. I don't care who we're buying from. I don't take anything less than a warranty deed, or at least a limited warranty deed. I want to be able to sell this property and make sure that I'm doing right by the person I'm selling to. As far as the tax sales go, yes, every state's different, and there's so many different little things I could go over the tax sales. I would just say if you're going to get into it, understand the rules for that particular state and really that particular county, because every county and every state's even a little different. In Indiana, we have the exact same thing. It's not a deed state. So you have either a 6-month or a 12-month period of time where you cannot convey clear title, or you cannot really sell the property. You can only sell the actual tax title. So I would just say make sure that if you are selling tax title, you can do that. You can totally sell that. I mean, you could wholesale that, Dan, but the problem is you just got to make sure you let people know what you're selling. And there's some money in people just buying those tax sale houses to just collect the interest that would get paid from somebody if they did buy back their house. So, you just really want to know what you're getting into and make sure you get educated in it.
What county is that you were looking at the tax sales, that you had that example, just so our listeners know exactly where it is if they wanted to check out the rules that you just kind of mentioned?
Sure. I know, like in Lake County, Indiana, which is where I'm at. In Lake County, Indiana, there's 2 different sales. There's a commissioner sale, and then there's a regular tax sale. And the commissioner sale is only a 6-month redemption period. And the regular sale, like you said, there's a 12-month redemption period. So at any time that person that owned that house can come back and redeem. Now, if they redeem, they're going to also have to pay a penalty and interest. And when they redeem, you get your money back that you paid, plus you get interest, which is really the way most tax sales work to some type of degree. Now, I know in Michigan, the whole state of Michigan is a deed state, so it's different. You got deed states, and then you've got other states. When they do a tax sale, they get the deed. You can buy a house in Michigan and 2 days later sell it. So, it's just different in every state, and it's a lot of education. Like I said, I just make sure you know what you're doing when you're getting into that. That's a little bit more of an advanced strategy, if you ask me. But like I said, there's lots of different things that could happen, good or bad. But, for us, the money and all the good that could happen outweigh the bad. Just like, we only get 10 to 15 offers accepted out of 5,000 offers put in. Some people would think that's a waste of time, but, for us, that's how we make our living.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit, Tom. Do you have some sort of a quick structure, or, hey, here's what we're going to do? Obviously, there's not a chance in hell that you're looking at all 5,000 of those properties physically before the offers are written. So could you enlighten us about that?
Sure. Well, it doesn't matter what kind of a house it is. I don't care if it's an MLS house. I don't care if it's an auction house. I don't care if it's a HUD house. I don't care if it's a for sale by owner house. I am always willing to put some kind of preliminary offer on the table for that house. And what I'll do is I'll look at and we do physically look at them all on the computer though. So, and a lot of times we're putting the same offer on the same house over and over and over again. So when I say 5,000 offers, it's not necessarily 5,000 new houses every single week. A lot of those houses we bid on last week, because we feel that all the money's made in the follow-up. Whether it's a bank-owned house, whether it's a house that's a for sale by owner, whether it's a mailings deal where you sent out mailings, all the money is made in the follow-up. What most people don't realize is that only 20% of people get to the 6th touch when they're trying to follow up with people, or the 6th follow-up, but 80% of all of the deals happen after the 6th follow-up. So that goes with anything. I don't care what kind of sales you're in. I don't care if you're selling widgets or you're selling rings or you're selling houses. All the money's made in the follow-up. So and if only 20% of the people get to touch number 6 or 7, that means 20% of the people are getting 80% of the business, because 80% of the business happens and occurs after the 6th touch. We operate under the exact same system for our MLS, for our auction, for our HUD, as we operate with as people would do follow-up for when they send out mailings. You know, you got to have a follow-up system where you're touching those people every month. You're calling them, you're emailing them, you're texting them maybe if they've given you permission to text, and you're saying, hey, you know, are you sure? You know, I want to let you know I'm still here. You know, you didn't take my $40,000 offer or $100,000 offer now. You know, will you be willing to take it now? And at some point, everybody's willing to sell, and that's just kind of how we operate from every acquisitions bucket. Other than, I mean, tax sales, you can't really. You got one shot at an auction, you know. So, or if it's a live auction type of deal, you only got one shot there. But so what we do is we pull every house that comes out new for every single way that we're bidding, and we throw those on a spreadsheet. We look at the comps, we run comparables, look at other houses in the area, and then we look at the pictures to see what we think the repairs would be. You know, we've obviously done some training for our acquisitions team on that, and they come up with what they think the after repaired value is. They come up with what the repairs are, and then we kind of have our own little formulas based off of, you know, how new the house is, what kind of neighborhood it's in, and what the price point is. You know, like a $500,000 house, I'm not going to get for 50 cents on the dollar necessarily. You know, so we might run those at 75%. So our formula might be ARV times 0.75 minus repairs equals what we want to sell the house for. That's not what we want to offer. So our offer might be $10,000 less than that because we want to make some money on the deal, and that might be what we offer. So, you know, it's a $500,000 house and it needs $50,000 worth of repairs. We'll multiply $500,000 times 0.75, subtract $50,000 and maybe take out $10,000 off of that, and then that's what our offer will be. And then we'll make a bid range between $5,000 below that. So let's just say it ends up being $320,000, then we'll have an offer range of $315,000 to $320,000, and we just keep dumping in offers. If they say no, then you know what? A week later, they're going to get another offer from us. If it's a for sale by owner person, they're going to get an offer another month from us. You know, from there, and we just keep hitting them with them. And the way I look at it is either they're going to sell to me, or they're going to sell to somebody else, or they're going to die. So I don't stop following up until one of those things happen.
That's how the money's made. You also mentioned too, Tom, you said that on some of these you're closing then reselling, and you have several different pillars of your business, which makes this a lot more fluid, liquid, faster, easier for a guy like you compared to somebody maybe just getting started or does like 5-10 deals per year.
Absolutely.
So you're saying you're closing then reselling on somebody. So let's say you win one of these bids, you know, the $320,000 example, you get it, you got to close on that. Are you typically going to, suppose you have to close on that deal because they won't allow you to sign it for the contract, whatever the reason is, you're closing on it. Do you typically have somebody lined up with a certain profit spread that would justify the $300,000 investment for a few days to buy that for, say, $330,000, $335,000, or is that something that when you say you'll close and then resell, you're typically going to do some renovation or some cleanup and try to get like somebody retail in there?
Honestly, it's all of the above. But I mean, I normally when we wholesale a bank-owned property, we're double closing. So we're doing an A to B and a B to C closing. We've actually done an A to B, B to C, C to D, D to E, E to F closing in one day before. It's crazy sometimes what people do. I'm like, wow, if you got somebody else that can buy it.
Cool. So, Tom, one of the things that I'm wondering is of these large number of wholesale deals, and I'm speaking from experience. I do about 20, 25 deals per month between the three markets that I'm located in, and I'm kind of curious as to what would be your target profit on a deal. I mean, obviously, as much as possible, but like what would be the minimum amount that you would be looking for to build in there to pay out the sales commissions for the team and, you know, overhead and everything like that?
Sure. For our wholesale deals, our average profit's about $7,000. That's our average. I wouldn't say that that's our minimum that we look for. We do typically try to look for about 10 if possible. It's not always the case. Sometimes we squeak by and make a couple grand, and occasionally we get a big deal and we make 20 or 30 grand, but it's not really our average. So what we're always shooting for 10 to 15 maybe on a wholesale deal. For our fix and flips, it really kind of depends a little bit on the price point of the property and how much money we're going to have into it. I do want to try to make, on my lower end deals for fix and flip, which for me a lower end deal is probably about 100,000 to 150 ARV, I'm looking to make 28,000. That's kind of my number. So I'm just kind of looking to make 28, and then it goes up to 30, And then I kind of just have a scale that goes up, $5,000 every $50,000 or something like that. I mean, $1 million house I'm not going to do for $30,000 profit. There's just too much risk involved. So I don't really do a percentage. Some people want to make a certain percent, and I think it's a little bit too rigid. So in some deals, honestly, I mean, it might be a $300,000 house, and there might be a little bit more risk as far as money's concerned, but maybe it's a 2-week rehab. And to me, I might take that deal, and I might only make $30,000 over another deal that I got to do a $60,000-$70,000 rehab on that might make 40 or 50. So I mean, sometimes the numbers are there's a little bit more than just the numbers in the deal. For turnkey, we're buying and fixing up, renting and selling. We typically make around 15 to 20 on those deals as well.
And that's like kind of a fix and flip in a sense, except It's a different buyer, right?
It's a different buyer. It's a different rehab. There's more steps involved. It's a little bit more of a systemized process. So it's kind of like a conveyor belt, more or less, process for us. And if you're going to do turnkey, I would recommend that you get more of that conveyor belt process down instead of just thinking you're going to do it all yourself.
Got it. Put some systems in place. Tom, how do you go about financing all this, and what kind of challenges did you face in the course of your career getting to, or maybe you just inherited a big pile of money and financing these deals is not an issue? Could you enlighten us on that?
Sure, absolutely. No, I didn't inherit a bunch of money, not sitting on a huge pile of cash, and actually that's kind of been a struggle for us, honestly. We go out and we find a lot of private lenders. We started using hard money back in the day. I don't really like hard money, to be honest with you. I would almost rather go to a bank than use hard money. The hard money lenders that I've been experienced with lately, I do have a couple. Don't get me wrong. I got 2 or 3 that I really like, that I work with a lot. They're still more expensive, and they still charge extra fees that I don't like. But sometimes if you don't have a private lender, we may use them. They're still the same. They're the same rates. We still pay 2 points and 12% for most of our short-term deals. But I would rather give that money to an individual, honestly, than give it to a hard money lender. Unless a hard money lender can give me a better rate and give me better service, I'm really more apt to try to work with an individual partner that's going to work with me. I mean, and honestly, we have no idea what the future holds. I really want to make sure that I'm with somebody that if for some reason 2008 happens all over again, if 2008 happens all over again, I want to be able to go back to somebody and say, hey, let's work this out. Most hard money lenders aren't going to be that way. And most of the people that I've talked to, that I do business with and lend me a ton of money, we have that upfront conversation, and we say, hey, if something happens, we might come back to you at some point and say, hey, instead of you getting this rate, maybe we're just going to give you 50% ownership in the house, and maybe we need to ride this out. Maybe we rent it. That's what I like. I could go to the bank and get 6% money all day long, but the reason why I'm willing to pay a little bit more than that is because I want to be able to get my money quicker without having to jump through a bunch of hoops. This is more relationship driven. That's what I do. And I mean, we are kind of we're always on the prowl. We're always looking out for cheaper money. Now for our longer term deals, for our rentals, what we own long-term rentals, we pay a blended rate of 9%. And there's lots of people out there that are getting 0% or 0.1% in their bank account. And that's the kind of people we're looking at for that. And really, I mean, some people just want to have set it and forget it money. So they're getting, when I do for a rental, they're going to get interest-only payments to themselves every single month. And a lot of people, they redeploy those. We've got a couple guys that send us money, and at the end of every year, they've got another $90,000, $100,000, so they're ready to fund another deal or two for us for our rentals. So that's compound interest that they're earning. So I really do believe that we offer a really good. And that's what I would do. If you're going to be in real estate, go out and try to find private lenders that it really works for them, and it works for you. But you got to go find the right people that are looking to do those kind of deals.
So that we're clear, I think I understood that you have almost 2, I don't want to call them products for fear of the SEC getting a hold of our copy, but 2 investment products for your private lenders. You have the hard money rate short-term fix and flip type deal, which maybe lasts, 6 to 12 months, and they're going to get 2 points and 12% interest. And then you have this other product of 9% interest-only payments. And how long does that park with you? What kind of a commitment do you get from your private lenders on that structure?
3 to 5 years. 3 to 5 years is what we're looking for. And at the end of that period of time, we can either just renew or we can get another lender that sits in their place. So we kind of have some options at that point, on how we want to proceed after that. So it's not super long term, but it is long term in the sense that, as of right now, they're going to get their payments whether, I get a rent payment or not. It's not like they're relying on the renter, somebody making $30,000 a year to make their investment pay out for them every single month. They're getting it from a company making, $2 million a year.
So that people understand kind of the structure too. I know a lot of people are interested in private money, and a lot of people, that's kind of like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow or the unicorn. They believe, a lot of people that I've had the experience of meeting and helping get started in the business personally, a lot of them think like, I need to find the money for the deal. I need to find the money for the deal. And the truth is, for me, it's always worked much more effectively to have a deal, to have an offering to go to the private lenders with and say, hey, I need this money, $60,000. I'm going to give you 9% interest over the course of the year. It's going to be, a little less than 1% per month. And I'm going to have your money for 36 months. And at that point in time, you can either take the money out or you can, and be able to explain all the details of the offering to the investor has been head and shoulders a whole lot easier for me to have the deal first and then go that route than try to get commitments from a bunch of people and going on. So would you agree
and honestly,
with that?
Absolutely. And honestly, I even take it a step farther than that. I think when people invest with us, they invest with us. It's not even just the deal. And the deal's important. I wouldn't even think about trying to go look for money if I didn't have deals. I would always find the deal first. But really, what really turned the corner for us, I would say, would be, once we actually really had an established business and once we really had proof that, our product is a good product and we could, show them this is how we've helped people and this is how we can help you and really understanding what they want and what they need. The way I think of it is most people are investing in us. They're really not investing in the house. Their house is a collateral. The house is, we give everybody a first and second, a first mortgage and note and mortgage on the property filed. Everything's completely legit. And I just want to make sure that everything that we do is above board. I don't take, loans on me or, loans that are, just the business is carrying it. I know that I think business lines of credit are a great thing to have, and we do, work with that. But as far as the lenders that lend on deals, we want to make sure that they have security in everything that they're doing. That the LTV is right, they're insured properly. We, make sure we have a good, clear title. Every possible way that we can help them is right. And I think you said something that kind of sparked my interest, and you took it one way, and I'd like to take it the other way. That I think the other thing, too, that helped us or helped me is when I started lending. A lot of times people think that nobody out there wants to lend until you start doing it yourself. Once you start lending yourself on deals, you'll realize how awesome of a real potential, a real deal it is. I think everybody ought to have a job or active income for themselves, but they also ought to have active income for their money. And I think that's sometimes what people miss. I know we're going to get to this at some point, but there's a book that I really like. It's called The Richest Man in Babylon. It really teaches that your money ought to have a place for it as well. And a lot of times we just spend our money or we just make a bunch of active income, but our money's not working for us. So once you do that, you'll also understand how powerful and how it's just such an awesome feeling to send out $50,000 and 2 or 3 months later get, $58,000 back or, send out a check for, or wire, $30 or $40 or $100,000 and then you're getting, monthly payments every single month into your account. It's just, it's a really good feeling and it solves a lot of problems. I think the other thing is mindset. There's people out there, they have this problem and the problem is they have money. And they really have to find a place for that money, and they got to find somebody that's trustworthy to be able to help them with that problem. And that's kind of how I see it.
So we covered some of the obvious, but I just want to make sure it's clear for those listening who've never done it. I know my philosophy is one lender per deal, with like a very slight exception if it were like a husband had some money and the wife had some money, and then we'd kind of put those two together on a deal.
Absolutely.
I assume you'd be on the same page there, right?
Yep. The only other way that I might do something like that is in case for some reason at the end of a deal, a project goes way over and you didn't realize it. Well, the only way I would do that is I wouldn't let the lender be in any kind of risk, but I may put some of my own money in the deal, and I might sit in the second, loan position. But I only do that if I'm the person that's in the second position. I don't do that with other people's money.
So I want to switch gears.
I guess. Go
ahead.
I guess one more quick thing. There is another way that people do bring us. I guess there's another way, and this is kind of like using leverage with people that have money. So the other way that I would guess, and this is a very complex way, and especially with people that have IRAs and invest from their retirement accounts, there will be people that I'll send a deal out to, and they may have somebody else that has money that really is going to fund the majority of this deal. So I know this is a complex way to do it, and it's not me, it's really them that's doing it, but I have seen it done. It's very interesting. It works very well. So what they will do is, let's just say, just for round numbers, a deal is $105,000. They may bring $5,000 of their own money, and their partner or their friend may bring $100,000 of their money. I'll give 2 and 12 to that guy that's bringing me the whole deal, and he'll wrap the whole note with a second. And so he'll wrap the first with the second. He'll put $5,000 of his own money. His buddy puts $100,000 in. The first lender, or the person that's in first position, is only going to get whatever they determine. So whatever those people determine is the deal. They'll get that, and really the other guy gets the rest. So I mean that's a way to leverage your relationships with lending as well. But that's, I know it's very complicated and a very complex contract and all that I would never be able to explain on this call, but it's definitely something that works. And I also go on a cruise every year called the IRA Fund Cruise that they teach really cool strategies like that. And that's something else I would encourage everybody to get into, learn how to invest in their IRA, especially their Roth if they can, with a self-directed.
Do you have a self-directed IRA custodian company that we could just throw in the show notes if anybody's interested, Tom?
Yeah, absolutely. I deal with Equity Trust and with Quest. So Quest IRA, I don't have their information. I don't really necessarily want to plug them to, like say that go use them. I'm just telling that those are the people that I use. Equity Trust has been around for years and years and years. Big company. The other one is actually a friend of mine and a lender of mine, Quincy Long, owns the other one, and Quest, and he actually sponsors the IRA Fund Cruise as well. So it's a very, very educational thing to get into if you're in investment on either side. If you have money and you're trying to invest your money, or if you are on the other side and want to be the active boots on the ground type catalyst.
Cool. I do want to touch on the turnkey rental business too before we get to the end and wrap up here. So we've kind of covered the construction piece, and we figured out that Tom Olson's good at buying and finding the deals. What about the management component of that business? Is that something you handle in-house, have developed systems for, or is that something that you kind of like outsource to another vendor who you've chosen selectively to fulfill the turnkey rental business?
As far as the property management goes, it's kind of a combination of both. We found a property manager and brought him in-house.
All right.
So it is his own company. He owns the company. If you buy a turnkey rental property from me, you will buy from me. But as far as the management goes after that point, he would take care of his caps, property management, and his name's Daryl, and he like I said, he's in my office. So if anybody were to come to see me, which I do recommend people coming out and seeing the areas they want to invest in, or at least coming and seeing the company. I actually think coming and seeing the company you're going to invest with and the people that you're dealing with is probably more important than the actual going out and looking at houses. But I would recommend you to do both at least one time. I know some people that don't, but yeah, we do have that in house, and he has systems in place, and he's got about 150, I think, or so that he's managing right now. And that's probably going to grow really fast. But yeah, he's a really good guy. Goes to my church. Really really good guy. Known him for a long time that manages that, and he's got several people that work for him, and they have systems in place to make that work as far as the property management goes.
So, Tom, for people who are maybe not in the market or they're already owning property in another area of the country, I'd like them to kind of be able to examine your thought process when it came to choosing Caps and Barrel. And if you could, just kind of explain maybe the top 3 reasons why his company is the company that's doing the rental management and you're able to vouch for him for your turnkey rental business. Kind of
sure. And I actually, in my opinion, I think if you're going to own a turnkey rental property, if you're going to dive into that as an investment tool, or even if you're going to be a landlord and you don't want to manage your own properties, which I own rentals in my area, and I used to be a property management company for 8 years, and I just stopped doing it. So, and he manages my properties. I think that if you're asking for me for the top things, or the top number 1, 2, or 3 things, I would really evaluate his core values. I mean, it goes back to him. Is this guy going to rip you off or not? I would do a lot of. I'm not seeing if the research is the right word, but I would definitely want to make sure that the person is the highest of integrity. I would want to make sure that the person is gonna run the rental the way you would run it, and that's what I like about Daryl. Daryl is I can talk to him and I can say, this is how I want you to run my rentals, and he'll run my rentals that way, and he may run yours a little bit different, but he kind of has his own little system on how he'd like to see everything run. I mean, that's what I would look for. Is the guy going to be honest with me? Is the guy going to do repairs and rip me off? Is the guy going to what is he charging on a monthly? Is it 8%, 10%, 12%, whatever? Just that's what I would look for, and I would look for. Does the guy do what he says he's going to do when he says he's going to do it? I also, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I look for people who have some experience in managing. So guys that have like 2 or 3 houses that they're managing, 20 houses maybe even, I don't know that I would want to choose them. I know there's different schools of thought for that, but for me, I want to see somebody who's been doing this for a while, who understands what the deal is. I also like to see people that own some of their own rentals, but I wouldn't necessarily say that that's a kicker or not. I don't know. I mean, are you looking for something different than that, Dan? Or
I think that probably hit the nail on the head. I mean, you definitely want to choose somebody who has the integrity, and I really like the tip that you shared about finding somebody who you're not going to be the guinea pig. I run a real estate investor association in Philadelphia, and I remember a few years back these young kids, and I started young, and I have a lot of young guys working with me still to this day. But this young pair of guys came up, and they're like, "Yeah, we're starting a property management company." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, when did you guys do your first deal?" And they hadn't even done a deal yet, and I'm like, "Oh gosh." So I don't know that it's to that extreme, the example you were sharing, but it's definitely, you don't want to necessarily be the guinea pig for somebody on their first handful of properties. I mean, everybody's got to start somewhere, but definitely the learning from experience. Would there be any parameters? Are there, I have one rental that I bought by accident. I do a lot of fix and flip business, and I do a lot of wholesale deals myself, so I don't have a breadth of experience or knowledge when it would come to like, what parameters, vacancy rates, do they have a days on market? Are there some things of that nature, some numbers that you'd ask for from a property manager, and they should be able to like answer that question, some type of statistic for their business, Tom?
Yeah, no, I think all the above. To me, that's just part of that's part of the interview. I would always try to do an interview or talk to the guy and just see if this is somebody that I'd want to work forward with, and maybe there's 10 or 15 questions that you want to kind of dive into. But I mean, I've been in this business long enough that I just know that every town is going to have a different vacancy rate. So for you to say, what's your vacancy rate? That guy's it's not really, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of a hard question to answer, because he's going to say, well, in this city it's going to be this, but in this city it's going to be this. How long does it take? To me, the questions I'm asking, the questions I ask the property manager is probably twofold. Number one, I'm actually looking at more of the house, but I'm wanting to see if the guy knows how to handle the house. So I'm looking at, and I would kind of test the waters with the guy. If the guy says he's going to get $1,200 a month for rent for it, and then you find out he can't get that and he's got to get 1,000, and maybe it's a one-time deal, that's fine, but if it keeps happening, then it's probably not a guy I would want to stay with. I'm really of the mindset of fail and fail quick and don't be afraid of failure. So I wouldn't mind, even working with a property manager and it not being the right one. It just doesn't scare me. But I would figure it out really quick. This guy's not working, and I'd go find somebody else as fast as possible. But I think those same page, I like to call them same page meetings. So just making sure that you guys are on the same page and this is what to expect. And I think setting the expectations with the property manager up front, because this is your investment. It's not his. You are in control. And that's kind of how I would operate personally. And now I know people have their own systems, and if the guy already has his own systems, I'm not saying you need to go reinvent the wheel, because I think that's kind of stupid too. But at the same point, I just want to make sure that if they have their own systems, that they are in line with what you expect. Just having those upfront conversations and just making sure that you're getting what you think you're getting, number one, and number two, make sure that you're going to get what you expect down the road. And I understand there's always going to be some bumps in the road and there's always going to be something, but if a property manager is telling you that everything's going to be peachy clean and you're never going to have an issue, I'd be moving on. I'd really be looking at the guys that kind of almost want to talk me out of it, not necessarily talk me out of it, but kind of,
shoot straight.
Go overboard. Yeah, shoot straight with me and go overboard to explain to me what could happen. And that's what I would be looking at. And that's probably more because of my experience than anything else. And I just think setting the right expectations up front is a good thing. And I would rather that property manager be under-promising me and over-performing. I actually had a lady in my office yesterday from California who's coming back today to buy a bunch of houses from us. And she kept asking me questions like, well, you said that the insurance is $66 a month, and that's like, I don't know, $792 or something like that. I'm not sure the exact numbers. But she's like, well, I had this other guy tell me it was going to be $660, and I'm like, all right, well, if you ask me what my insurance is for the year, I don't think I ever pay more than like $650 for insurance. But I'm just trying to set an expectation here to you that, hey, the numbers work at this number. We just put this number in there in the pro forma so you can see this is what, I think this is going to perform at. And I'm trying to set a reasonable expectation because at the same time, yeah, you're going to get somebody else that gets insurance and it's $850. And I want to have some kind of, middle ground expectation set there that gives you a reasonable expectation of what you can expect. I think the pie in the sky thinking is not where I like to be. I like to really set reasonable goals and really try to hit them.
Well, Tom, we're kind of wrapping up to the end of the hour here. I know you got a busy day ahead of you. Do you have any book recommendations for our listeners? I know you've mentioned one.
I am an avid book reader, so I could probably give you a list if you really wanted to. I would like to at least mention three that we are working on right now as a whole company. Our whole company has kind of adopted the EOS system, the Entrepreneur Operating System, which is by Gene Wickman. And his books are Traction, Rocket Fuel, and Get a Grip. And these books are probably not for your newbie, just getting started type people in any business. These are really more for people that are already running at a really high level, and they're just kind of getting to the point where they're getting capped out, they're getting topped out, and they've got to figure out how to put new systems in place to get from, this isn't even for people on the 5-yard line trying to get to the 50-yard line. It's probably really more getting from the 40-yard line to the goal line. So it's that next level. There's a lot of stuff that are involved in that, but Traction's a really good book to get started with. I love the book Go Giver. It's one of our core values in our business is to give. That's part of the whole circle of life, I think. And then the other book that's very similar to the Traction model, which kind of helps figuring out how to scale up, really, and the name of the book is called Scaling Up. So just a quick, if you ask me right off the top of my head, those would be the books that I'm reading now, and those are really good books. I highly recommend.
Nice. Do you happen to have the authors for Go Giver and Scaling Up? I think it was David Finkel on the one, right?
I don't have Scaling Up, but Bob Burke and John David Mann. I actually met Bob Burke on a meeting, and I don't know if I have the scaling up, but it's another group of people, and they kind of have their own trainers that go out. And I know that they're going to probably push a little bit of their, to have them come out and help you with their business consulting type of thing, but the books themselves are very good.
I have one more question with meat here, some knowledge, some jewels of wisdom, and if you could answer it two ways for me, Tom. First, for the investor who's just getting started, the newbie, and then second, for the seasoned investor, and you can define that however you wish there. And that question is, do you have any final jewels of wisdom to share with our listeners?
Well, I think I'll answer this question that I think it'll work for both. Really, this works in every aspect of your life. If you're just getting started, if you are trying to make a major decision, if your company's already running on rocket fuel and you're just trying to figure out how to get to the next step. To me, it's a 5-step process. So for any decision I'm ever trying to make, whether it's in business, I have to remind myself to go back to this. And I call it the now what, why, how, and when. So it's basically 5 steps. So the first one is now. I think in anything in life, if you're trying to get somewhere else, you've got to be honest with yourself. So being honest with yourself is so important. You see people all the time and you think that there's something somewhere and you go and see them and they're really not. So the first thing I think is being honest with yourself. So now, where am I at now in this endeavor or in this business or in this, even with a house, where do I stand with this house now? That's the first thing I think we need to figure out when making a decision or setting a goal. The next one is what? So what do you really want? So if you want to grow your business to doing 10 deals, well, define that. What is that? What does that look like for you? If you're already doing 100 deals a year and you want to get to 150, make that your goal. What is your actual goal, and what does that mean for you? Define that. So the first step, like I said, is now be honest with yourself, figure that out. Second is what, where are you going? What do you want to achieve? Clearly define that. The third one, which I think is very important and probably the most important out of all 5, is why. If people don't know why they're in life, why they're in their business, why they're selling a house, why they are buying a house, why they're renting a house, I don't care what you're doing in life. I don't care if you own a plant. I don't care if you own a cookie store, if you're a dentist, if you're a doctor, if you're an entrepreneur. Why are you doing what you're doing? I think so many people that I see, they're honest with themselves now, and and some people get stuck there. They can't even figure out. You can't be honest with themselves. And then some people get stuck. They can't figure out what their next step is, or they have a hard time making a goal or thinking that it's even believable enough that they can even set the goal. And then the next thing people get stuck on and they don't ever do is they don't ever figure out why. I'm not sure if I heard the statement or if I read the statement, so I'd love to give credit to who credit is due, but I don't honestly remember if somebody else made the statement, but it's a statement I love to say. And it's, if your why is big enough, your what will take care of itself. And I really believe that. I have a huge passion for my why, and it's to me, it's what keeps me going. It's what makes me go to work when I don't want to go to work. It's what makes me make the phone call when I don't want to make the phone call. And it's bigger than just me. And your why has to be bigger than just you. So like I said, the first thing is what. That first thing is now. So where are you at now? Be honest with yourself. What, why. The third step that I would say is how. It's always, so at that point, it's now I got to make a plan to get there. So I figured out what I wanted. I figured out why I want to get there. And let's just sit down and let's create a plan to be able to get there. Now, I think sometimes people start making plans, but they never know where they're at now. They never know where they want to go, and they don't really have a reason. So if they do these out of order, I think we can get messed up as well. So create a plan starting with the end in mind. And people teach that a lot of time. There's tons of books about, start with the end in mind and all that. But knowing where you're at now and knowing how to get there, it's kind of like a map. If I'm going to go from Northwest Indiana and I'm going to go to Chicago, I'm probably not going to go to Cincinnati first. So mapping that out and just knowing how do I get from where I'm at to the next thing. So setting your goals is important, but without the plan to get there, nobody's ever going to get there. And then the final step, which is another one of the steps that people get really stuck on and they don't decide on and don't make it a set thing that this is what we're going to do, is when. And I mean, normally people are like, action now, take action now. Yes. I mean, that is the answer, but you've got to give yourself a deadline. You've got to make sure that you start now. You know, I never put off until tomorrow what you can do today is a type of attitude that I've always had and I've always lived by. So now be honest with yourself. Create goals and make them big goals, make them a little scary. You know, figure out why you're in your life, figure out why you're going to do this particular goal, why you want to reach it, you know, figure out a plan on how to do it, and then give yourself a timeline on when it's going to be done by.
That's great. Can I ask, what is your why? Would you mind sharing that?
Sure, absolutely. I have this big, audacious, ridiculous goal in my life, and it's one of these things that is probably so far out there that I don't know that I'll ever achieve it. I think I will. I do believe in it. But really everybody that works at our office, we all go to the same church. We all pretty much have the same final goal in our life. And I mean, as far as not goal in our life, but we all have the same core values. We all believe the way we believe. And for me, my big, huge goal in my lifetime is to give $1 billion away to, you know, either churches or charities or to, you know, people in need. I mean, to me, any of that is all part of it. It's not just churches. It's not just charities. It's all the above. So that's pretty much, that's my individual personal goal. Now for our company, where we're at right now with our company, like I said, we have a great company, and what we would like to achieve in the next 8 years is to give $26 million away each year. That's kind of our goal for our business. We have a goal of that more than we have a goal of revenue, or more than we have a goal of this. This is really why we are in business. It's not so we can have, it's so we can have, so we can give. The giving is the end result from our having. You know, we don't have so we can have. God gave you two hands, one to have and one to get and one to give. So that's really our whole main focus, and the whole reason behind that is we actually had a guy in our church from the 1970s that used to be one of the wealthiest men in the area, and he used to his tithe at one point was $50,000 a week, and he went to our pastor at the time, and he told the pastor, you know, our pastor decided he wanted to have a large church. At one time, our church was the largest church in the world. We started running all these buses and started busing all these inner city kids in from Chicago and from all these other areas around the area. And he went to our pastor, and he didn't like the fact that these kids were coming in and messing up the songbooks and writing on the pews and messing up things, so to speak. And he went to the pastor, and he told the pastor, it's either us or the bus kids, which meaning him and his rich friends, or the bus kids. And the pastor at the time had to really struggle with that, and it was a decision he took him months to make. And at one point, you know, he decided, you know what, I'll take the bus kids. So that's kind of the reason why we came up with that 2.6. It's 2.6 million a year, which is $50,000, you know, a week. So the $26 million company is the goal in the next 8 years, and that's the reason, because we figure a tenth of that, you know, is 2.6 million. Now, on average, we're actually, as a company, at the end of the year, we anonymously just kind of put in a hat, you know, what our giving was for the year, and nobody knows who it was or what it was, but at the end of the year, you know, we do that, and we've done that every year for the last 4 years, and we are kind of at a 20% pace. So, you know, we would really only need to get to 13 million in order to hit that goal, and this year we'll be at 2. So we're definitely well on our goal. We are growing at a 40% rate, and I do believe that God's blessing us because of it.
Beautiful, Tom. So how can people find out more information about you, your companies, if you'd like to share some contact info?
Yeah, absolutely. I do own a construction company. We kind of talked about that a little bit, but I do own a pretty large construction company. Next year, we'll probably do 250 rehabs for investors around the Chicagoland area. Obviously, some of those deals are deals that the other company that I own is a part of, but probably really only 20%. So I do want to open that up if anybody does have properties in Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, that they would like to have some kind of rehab help on, or some boots on the ground, or maybe you own a property that you got stuck with and you bought it from a provider and the provider's not doing what they said they were going to do, and you need some help. So OlsonPropertyServices.com, it's OLSON, PropertyServices.com would be, you know, I would tell you to check me out there. And there's definitely a way to get a hold of us there. And then goodsuccess.com. Now that's the big business. That's the brand business. That's where we're going at the $26 million business we talked about. We kind of do everything under that brand. So that's the turnkeys. That's everything. And then if you're looking for just turnkeys, we have chicagolandturnkey.com. So that would be something. And most of our properties, we say Chicagoland, but most of our properties are in Northwest Indiana. I do want to say that we do kind of like Indiana a little bit better than Illinois for turnkeys, just because property taxes are a little cheaper, and Indiana is a lot more landlord-friendly state, especially like Cook County, Illinois versus Indiana. But we do consider ourselves in the Chicagoland. And then I think there's some other websites, but those are the main ones: goodsuccess.com, olsonpropertyservices.com, and chicagolandturnkey.com.
Cool. Thank you, Tom, for coming on the show and sharing of your knowledge and experience. I got pages of notes, so I'm sure the listeners are getting a ton of value out of what you gave here today.
Well, I hope so, Dan. And if there's anything else I can do for you or any of your guests, just let me know. I'd love to help in any way, shape, or form I can. There was I'm going to forget who said this, but basically the guy said that, if you want to get anything in life, you just go try to find to help as many other people as you can get what they want, and you'll eventually get what you want. I believe that, and everybody that works for us really does believe that.
Cool. And thank you all for listening to this episode of the REI Diamonds podcast. Are you enjoying what you're hearing here? Maybe you know somebody else who'd also enjoy this episode. The best compliment you can give us at the show here is a referral. You can also sign up to receive email updates of new weekly podcast episodes at www.reidiamonds.com. I'll also send you my special report titled 7 Sources of Off-Market Deals. The website again is www.reidiamonds.com. And you can also subscribe in the iTunes app. Just search REI Diamonds and click subscribe. Until next time, this is Dan Breslin, signing off.
Thanks for listening to the REI Diamond Interview. To receive the REI Diamonds newsletter and interview monthly, sign up now at www.reidiamonds.com.